Here you have a tech company acting as if it possesses its own State Department, giving totally unself-aware instructions about internet freedom to foreign countries across the Atlantic Ocean. What can we infer from this statement?
Well, I do think that the tweet to which that alludes and that you were alluding to in your opening is an event that we need to pause and think about, because to me it was one of the most alarming events to take place in American politics in the last decade, which is that in the weeks up to the 2020 election, Twitter and Facebook united to ban any discussion of reporting by the nation's oldest newspaper, the New York Post, about documents regarding the Biden family, the front runner for the president of the United States, that everyone acknowledges were completely authentic. They simply censored any ability to disseminate discussion or reporting about the leading presidential candidate whom they wanted to win. In other words, doing exactly that which they're now lecturing the Ugandans that you can't do without violating the spirit of the open internet and attacking democracy itself. They're right about the principles that they expressed in that tweet. The irony, though, the really sick, dark, and dangerous irony is that they themselves are leading the way, not just Twitter, but Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple, in doing exactly that which they're lecturing other countries that they can't do. And I think the broader point, the more important one, Tucker, is that these countries are acting like nation states, more powerful than nation states, because that's what they are. Facebook, too, has committees now, the way a government would have committees, studying what is true and what is false, what kind of speech is dangerous, what kind of speech isn't dangerous. And that's why the amazing thing is that in the wake of Twitter and Facebook's ban of President Trump, you had numerous democracies around the world who have no love lost for Donald Trump. Quite the contrary. Chancellor Angela Merkel in Germany, the president of Mexico, French ministers who came out and said this is extremely dangerous, that Silicon Valley is anointing itself the world media that controls and is more powerful than other democracies, because they know that's coming for their democracies as well.
So you did some reporting today and yesterday on what happened to the social media app Parler, which was expelled really from the internet, shut down by Amazon Web Services, biggest server farms in the world, on the pretext that they somehow contributed to the violence that we saw last week at the U.S. Capitol. Tell us what you learned about Parler's role in that riot on Wednesday.
So of the first 13 people arrested by the FBI in connection with the event at the Capitol, a total of 0 were active users of Parler. The overwhelming amount of planning for that event, the overwhelming amount of advocacy for people to go there and to breach the Capitol was done on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter. And this is one of the ironies, is that Google was one of the monopolies that wants to police our discourse and control our thinking and rule our politics, that kicked Parler off of its app at exactly the time that Parler had gone to #1, the most downloaded app in the country, millions of Americans wanting to use it. Google said, we will not allow you on our service because you have the role that you played in stimulating violence and extremism at the Capitol and elsewhere. And the reality is the service that Google owns, YouTube, played a much greater role in organizing and advocating for that event at the Capitol. If Google was really interested in disassociating itself from violence and extremism, they wouldn't disassociate themselves from Parler, but from YouTube. And you had Democratic politicians like AOC and others demanding that Google and Apple kick Parler off, using their power as officials in the party that's about to assume control over the government, and they then obeyed. But why weren't these Democratic officials demanding that Google and Apple kick Facebook and YouTube off of their platforms, since they played a much bigger role? Because they donate and pour huge amounts of money into the Democratic Party and are their allies. And that's what is so menacing here, not just the censorship from Silicon Valley, but the partnership they're in with the party that's about to take over the Congress and the White House.
Glenn Greenwald, a principled man and always a source of the clearest big picture. Appreciate your coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.